Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Today we are going to be getting a presentation on utilizing college programs, their internships and co-op programs at colleges and universities. And today we have Sarah Burke, who they have a robust tool to have done, and everyone find informative. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to, and she can go ahead and get started.
All right, thanks so much, and thank you to the students that are joining us today. So if you just give me a second, I'm going to start sharing my screen. And Danny, tell me if are you seeing this?
We can see it.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I want to give you just a little bit of background on myself. I spent 15 years at the university, which is located in Rochester, New York. It's way upstate New York, not Albany, which New Yorkers call upstate. It's on the Lake Ontario, about an hour from Toronto. So we're in western upstate New York. And I spent 15 years there, and I worked in the Co-op and Career Services office. So this topic is pretty near and dear to my heart. And when I retired and moved to North Carolina, the admissions office asked me to do some part-time work for them, visiting high schools in Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, and South Carolina, which I've been really, really fortunate to be able to do it. I'm loving every minute of it. And as I've talked to college counselors, such as Mr. Easley, one of them said to me in January, I have juniors who tell me they want to start looking at schools for engineering. And when I ask them why, first, they don't know the answer to the question. And second of all, they really don't know what engineering is. Can you talk about engineering? And I said, absolutely, I can. And he said, and then the other topic that they always are very confused by, because some schools have co-op and internship programs, could you talk about that? And so that's what we're going to focus on today. Is co-op and internships at the college level. What are they? What's the difference between the two? Because the terminology can be confusing for many, many students, even those that are already on a college campus. So we're going to talk about what a co-op or internship is, when they typically happen, and then when do students and where do they happen? So the difference between co-op and internship, and I'm not going to read this to you verbatim. Are you hearing me?
Industrial and systems.
I'm sorry, are you hearing me? Hello?
Yes, Sarah, we can hear you. Just a quick note to our participants, please mute your microphones.
Oh,
Thank
okay,
you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Yeah. So co-op and internship, the terms are very interchangeable in the United States, mostly. And different schools refer to them in different manners. A broad general sense of a definition of the difference between co-op and internship is co-op is usually part of an academic program. Most often it's for some kind of academic credit, and it's usually very structured. Co-ops traditionally are paid full-time positions, and when you're on a co-op, you're not taking classes. So the opposite of that is what we then at RIT refer to as an internship. It usually refers to something that happens only one time. Most of the time, it's often in the summer. Not always, but most of the time. And internships could be full-time work, like 40 hours a week, or it could be part-time. And it could be paid or it could be unpaid, depending on the employer in the career field. But the terminology or the two things are very, very interchangeable. So the biggest questions that I get when I go to talk to students about co-ops and internships is, well, will I get paid? And that's always a question that parents want to know. Will my student be paid when they're on a co-op or internship? You should be, and you should be wary of unpaid experiences and be prepared to ask a lot of questions about those. And the reason you need to be wary, and I'm not going to get too deep into this, is there are federal wage guidelines that talk about who can work in an unpaid environment. And employers are more savvy today than they used to be, and they really do follow those laws for the most part. You can do an unpaid experience if you're doing it for your own personal gain and not the gain of the company. But the company cannot have a required legitimate project that somebody needs to be completed and have a student come in and do it for free. That would be at the benefit of the company. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. Questions that I get as well is, if I go during the school year, will I graduate on time? Well, it depends entirely on the program. Many have co-op and internship programs built into their academic year. So if you're looking at a university that has a co-op program that is part of their academic requirements, like an RIT, like University of Cincinnati, like Kettering in Michigan, those schools, it is going to be built in, or WPI up in Massachusetts. It's going to be part of your experience, and you will still graduate on time. If you go during the school year, how will tuition work? That's always a great question, and it's one that parents most often want to know. At RIT, we have a 5-year program for all of our technical majors, such as engineering and computing. And so parents always want to know, well, is my student going to have to pay tuition for 5 years? It entirely depends on the university. Many schools do not charge tuition while you're on co-op, and that's absolutely a question you need to ask. Some of those universities are going to tell you that, no, you're going to pay tuition and you're going to receive 3 credits for that experience. So some of the universities are going to do credit experience, and some of them are going to do academic requirement, no credit, therefore no tuition. So you're going to want to ask that question. Will I be required to go on a co-op or a university? And again, that depends entirely on the university and what major. What kind of resources will be available to me if I decide to do a co-op or internships? Many schools offer training and preparation for that process, so you want to make sure that you ask what they offer. How will I find a co-op? Well, there's so many ways now to find a co-op or an internship. You're going to be networking a lot. You're going to be using online databases and resources. You're going to find them through social media. And probably one of the biggest ones that we hear, especially for first experiences out of our 2nd and 3rd year students, is they have a family connection to something close to home that they want to go home to do their co-op. Do I need a resume before I start my freshman year? It will be helpful, but it's not required. And we always tell our students that we're going to start all over. So the resume you used in high school is not going to be appropriate to apply to a job once you land at the university. But what it is going to be very, very helpful for is it's already going to have some information on it, especially dates of employment that you may have had in high school, that are going to be very useful when you go to create your resume in college. I have a favorite company that I would like to work for. Can I? Absolutely, you can, if you meet their minimum criteria, but that will take some work, and I'll talk about that again in a few minutes. My family owns a business. Can I work for my family business? Absolutely, you can, if the work qualifies for your specific major, if it's a required co-op program. If you major in engineering, for example, you must be doing relevant engineering work. So what are the benefits of doing some kind of work experience while you're in college? And what is the benefit of attending a school with this kind of a program that's already in place? The real benefit is the real world experience that you will gain on your resume before graduation. Making professional contact with leaders of great companies is another benefit. Many large companies that have very robust co-op and internship programs, and I can use GE as an example, or Raytheon as an example, or Google or Microsoft, they have meetings with their leadership groups for their co-op and internships, especially during the summertime. They'll call them lunch and learn, where 50 co-op students will have the benefit of having lunch with the CEO of the company, or the CFO of the company, or the head marketing person, or the director or vice president of engineering, and you'll have great access to those kinds of people that you can actually meet one-on-one. And not all college students have the benefit of having that happen. So it's a really great way for you to make professional connections to leaders of really good companies. Your resume is going to be more competitive than the peers that you have from that go to other institutions. And what do I mean by that? You know, there are tons of great universities in the United States. There are tons right there in your backyard in Kentucky, all over the Midwest, the Northeast, all over the place. Every one of them is going to offer a really good education to their students. So that's not what we mean by a competitive resume. But if I'm a company and I'm hiring 2 marketing people, let's say, and I only have the opportunity to hire 2 in this year's budget at the end of the academic year. And I have 2 students that apply to me, and one of them went to the University of Cincinnati and did 2 required co-ops, and the other one went to the University of Kentucky and didn't even do an internship. What's in my best interest if I'm looking to hire that particular for that job? It's probably the student that has 6 months of real work experience doing marketing, because they're going to hit the ground faster. It's a practical foundation for your work. You're going to hit the ground running when you start. You're going to earn great money to assist with your college tuition and expenses. And in my 15 years of working in the career services at RIT, I had students that would come back from their internship or co-op and literally be able to pay for at least a semester, if not 2 semesters of tuition with the wages that they earned while they were on co-op. These are not part-time jobs, making copies, going and getting coffee, picking up dry cleaning. These are real world experiences, and you're going to be paid as a real world engineer or computing person or marketing person. RIT is the host to one of the largest and oldest co-op programs in the country. We were actually 4th. We've been around since 1912. The University of Cincinnati, which I've mentioned a couple of times, has the oldest program in the United States, and I think they were founded in 1908. So we've been doing it for a very long time. And most of all of our technical majors and about 80% of our students on campus do a co-op as a part of their academic program. And this is just an example, and I'm not going to get too in depth with this, of what that might look like. But if you're in engineering or computing, you're going to spend 2 full years of academic work on campus. And then in years 3 and 4, you're going to be at RIT part of the time and on co-op part of the time. It's like we take your junior year and we split it in half. If you were in a business major, for example, you're again going to spend 2 full years at RIT getting some academics out of the way. Then you're going to be on co-op the summer between your 2nd and 3rd year. And many students do an additional semester and or an additional summer in the business world as well. Here's a short video. Okay, I can smell it again. Just don't real long. Wait, ask Mom if you need it. Do you ask Mom? So that's a little bit of background on the co-op program at RIT and how we take that experience and what our students are able to do. You'll see on this particular visual, some very big names of employers that come to RIT to recruit on an annual basis. So the next steps, what do you need to do? First thing you need to start thinking about as juniors, and even if there's sophomores or seniors on the phone, you need to start thinking about research. And what do I mean by that? Researching the universities and the colleges that have the types of majors that you think you want to get involved with. Does it have a degree major that you're interested in at that particular university? Ask questions, look at the different programs that they offer, and what is the university known for? Look at the prerequisites for those majors. Make sure you are prepared. And the reason I highlight this one is that depending on where you go and depending on what programs you look at, there may be prerequisites in high school that you're required to take before you can be admitted. And you don't want to find that out in March of your senior year and you haven't had physics and the program that you're applying to requires that you take physics. At your school, the chances of that happening, I know, are very slim, but just make sure you've had all the prerequisites for whatever program you're trying to get admitted to. Does the university have a co-op or internship program? And is it required, and what kind of support do they offer? And that might be important to you. You may decide that you're going to a liberal arts university and you're going to go pre-law or that sort of thing. And it may not be as important, but you want to ask those questions and just make sure. Work hard. And why do I say that? I say that because grades really do matter. Your high school transcript is going to be scrutinized by every university. Many of us are getting away from the standardized tests, but we need to know what you're capable of doing in the classroom on an ongoing basis. So work really, really hard. And so that's all I have as far as the formal presentation is, but I'm absolutely available at this time for questions. Anybody that has a question, or Danny, if you've got any questions, or anybody else has any questions.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. If anyone that is on the presentation has a question, I think the easiest thing to do would be if you wanted to type your question in the chat feature. That way I can read those questions off and we can make sure that they get recorded, and we can make sure everybody kind of stays muted so that we can hear the answers to the question. So if you do have a question, go ahead and use that chat feature up in the top corner of the right-hand corner of the screen, and I'll read those questions off. Sarah, while we're waiting for some people, yes. I was wondering, do you all have, I know we've had some students who are looking at possibly doing an internship, but also incorporating that in with a study abroad type thing. So,
yeah, I can absolutely speak about that.
Yeah, can you talk about that, doing some sort of internship abroad?
We find in today's students, they all want to do a global experience, which is awesome because there's nothing that can replace that. That's a really, really good idea. It will depend entirely on what kind of a program you're in, what major you're in. Because, let me see if I can explain this. Depending on your curriculum, if you're in a program that has, and I'll use engineering as an example, because this is where we see it more often than not. Our engineering degree programs are 5 years, and you spend 4 years on campus and 1 year out on co-op. The opportunity to take an engineering curriculum at another university that will then transfer back to RIT, and most engineering schools are going to be in the same boat, is going to be more challenging. You can find a liberal arts curriculum very easily that will transfer back. It will depend on what you have available in your schedule to take for your general liberal arts electives. So studying abroad is very, very, very doable. But at RIT, we also offer a very robust work abroad program so that it doesn't have to impact your academic work in that 4-year time frame. You would spend a semester or a semester and a summer abroad working, getting paid for it, going to some great places. I've had students go to Germany, to BMW and to Audi. I've had them go to Switzerland. I've had them go to Sweden to work at Volvo. I've had students in South America, in China, in the UK, just all over the globe. So we usually have about 300 students a year that are working outside of the United States. So that's another opportunity, but study abroad is an opportunity. The summer after second year is a great time to go because that's usually your only free summer from RIT. So I would say look at going the summer after your second year or incorporate that into a work abroad experience.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have any other questions?
It looks like there's a couple. I see some things up there in that chat box.
Yeah, it looks like just that they said thank you for the information. They found
okay,
it very
good.
helpful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Would you mind, Sarah, maybe talking a little bit about what a typical, just briefly, what a typical school year calendar would look like for a student who wanted to do a co-op program, like at
Again,
RIT?
yeah, it depends. It'll depend on the major and whether it's a required one or not. In engineering technology, and in computer science and software engineering at RIT, those are 5-year degree programs. So you would spend 2 years on campus taking your core required classes. When you go on your first co-op, we want you to have content and knowledge in your field of expertise so that when you get to work, you can actually be a contributor and work on some amazing projects. You would spend those first 2 years looking at taking your classes. And then in years 3 and 4, you would alternate a semester of coursework with a semester of classes. And then you would come back to RIT and take another semester of classes and go out on co-op again. So you'd go 2 times, 4 required experiences. You could go to 4 different companies. You could go to 1 company and just repeat and be there for the entire 12-month requirement. But there are students that want to try lots of different things. If you're in the College of Liberal Arts, for example, only a handful of those majors require that you do an experience, and those typically happen during the summertime, and that's the same in the College of Art and Design. In the College of Science and the College of Health Science Technology, they don't have required experiences, but they have research opportunities that students typically do. Almost all students do them, and those happen in the summertime. So the calendar is not going to be very different from any other university that operates on a semester system. We start the last week of August and we end right before Christmas, just like you probably do at your high school. We have a break in the fall, a short break, but students that are on co-op are full-time students while they're away. They are operating on their employer's calendar and not on our academic calendar. Does that answer the question, Danny?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question here about a little bit about like students applying and who they should approach or who they should contact directly, like at the school. I know you mentioned in your presentation about students, can reach out to network, maybe a network or a family, have a family contact, or using social media to contact. Can you talk a little bit about maybe what are some, as a general rule on college campuses, what are some resources available to students on a college campus where they're just kind of like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay. That's a
contact. Yeah.
Okay. That's a really good question. And I briefly touched on that in our presentation. So again, when you're researching universities, and if you're interested in having one of these work experiences, you really need to ask about the resources that the university provides and what kind of support. At RIT, every single student on our campus has a career advisor, whether they're in a required program or an optional program, they have a full-time career advisor that they can use for support and resources. So our AT students have 3 advisors for the entire time they're with us on campus. They have an academic advisor that helps them with their scheduling and their classes and making sure they're taking the right things at the right time and they haven't missed a prereq and that sort of thing. And that person's main job is to keep them on time to graduation. They have a faculty advisor, which I refer to and call their content expert. And that's the person in their field of study that their go-to person, that they're not understanding a concept or a lab or a class or that sort of thing. So they've got somebody in their own field that they can go to with those questions. And then they have a full-time career services advisor. And again, students in optional programs as well as required programs. In the required programs at RIT, we offer or provide a required class in the second year for all students that are in a required program. So if you're in engineering or you're in criminal justice or you're in the College of Business or you're in anything in computing, you will be required to take a class in your second year called Co-op Prep. And in that course, it's taught by the Career Services Office. It's a semester course. And in that course, students are given the opportunity to learn all about how to write a resume, how to do an interview, how to look for a job, where to look for a job, how to use social media in the job search process, appropriate job search etiquette, etiquette on the job, so to speak, professionalism, all the things that we believe are important to a student to be successful on a co-op and behave like a full-time employee, we teach in that second class, in that second year class. And then we put those things into practice in the end of the second year when they're searching for their first experience. And then that career advisor is advising that student for the remainder of their time at RIT. So there's a lot of interaction between the career services advisor and the student. Now, not every university is going to have that opportunity. They're not going to have that big a staff. So again, it's a question that you're going to want to ask and find out what kind of services and training, if you will, and preparation does the university offer should you want to go do that.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one other question. How does RIT or other selective institutions like you all look at students who maybe in high school have done some sort of internship or summer work experience? What are you looking? Are you looking for anything in particular when you're looking at those types of things? We get that question a lot. What should I be doing in order to boost my resume or things like that? So how do you all look at internships, or maybe we have some students who do research down at University of Louisville or a summer job? How do you all look at those when you're evaluating students?
We do a real holistic approach of evaluating students' applications when they apply to RIT. So we're looking at everything. We're looking at your grades, at your transcript, at your experience, at your recommendations, at your activities, your involvement. Are you a good, community citizen, either in your community and or on your campus? We look at all of those things. And so I wouldn't want to say that a summer experience, whether it's in research or some kind of an internship in a law firm or any kind of a business, so to speak, or the summer job at McDonald's, personally, when I evaluate applications, I don't give one of those any weight over the other. The fact that you're doing something and being busy is really important to RIT. But what is really important to RIT are students that are engaged and involved. And by that, we mean engaged and involved in their campus community as well as in their community that they live. So if I had a student that said, I'm going to spend the summer building houses for Habitat of Humanity, I would look very favorably on that. But I wouldn't necessarily discount the person that worked at the pizza shop either, because again, it takes some gumption to get up and go to a part-time job every day. Any experience is good experience in our book. And one of the things we look at RIT is all of those retail and food service jobs that kids typically do in high school. teach you really good things. They teach you what it's like to be an employee, what it's like to have responsibility and be accountable to somebody other than yourself or your family. It teaches you typically really good customer service skills if you're in that retail or food service environment. And all of those skills are very, very transferable when you go to look for a job when you're in college. So, do we look for a kid that has an engineering internship, to admit them to an engineering program? No, we do not. It's not anything that's required. It won't hurt. It may help with scholarship money down the road, but it's not something that we put all of our stock into. I have actually had the conversation with students that, especially between their junior and senior year, if not between sophomore and junior year, you've got the entire rest of your life to work. And if you go to a school with a required program, like RIT or Cincinnati or one of those, where they're going to have you pretty scheduled for your summers starting in your second year, it's one of the last summers that you have an opportunity to just be a kid and have some fun. And we like that at RIT as well. Or go do something on your own. Go be creative. Go teach at a summer camp and teach dance or music or something completely out of your wheelhouse, or go hike the Appalachian Trail or any of those things, or, go travel or sightsee or whatever, because you're going to have your whole life to work. So don't give up that last opportunity to have some fun and be a kid before you have to go away to school.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any other questions. I appreciate you doing this program. It's been really helpful. And like I said, I'm going to record this and send it out to the rest of the to any families who weren't able to participate. So it looked like we had pretty good attendance. We had maybe 5 or 6 different families on
Good.
on the presentation. So.
And Danny, would it help if I sent you the link to the video separately, or is it just because it's in the presentation? Is that going to be good enough?
You can send it to me separately if you'd like.
Okay, I will. And if there are any follow-up questions, if you get those to Mr. Easley, he can get them to me, and I'm happy to, and my contact information is in the presentation. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions whatsoever about, looking at schools and how we're all navigating through this new environment that we're in right now, and all of the virtual things that we're doing with visits and applications. If there are any seniors that are out there, we're still looking at applications and up until the middle of June. So if there's anybody that wants to think about doing something different, we certainly have those options as well. But thank you so much to everybody. I hope to be on your campus this fall. Well, God willing, we will all be back in our normal environments, and I'll be traveling to Kentucky to see y'all. Okay?
Thanks so much.
All righty. Thank
Thanks,
you very
Sarah.
much. Appreciate it.
Bye. Thanks.